The Telegraph Pole and the Peculiar Man. Mimei Ogawa. In a certain town, there lived a peculiar man. He never went outside during the day. Even when friends came to invite him out, he would never step outside. He always made excuses, saying he was ill or had something to do, and remained shut up in his room. He loved wandering alone at night after everyone had gone to sleep. Every night, from about 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, he enjoyed strolling through the silent, deserted streets of the town, all by himself. One night, as he was walking along the quiet, slumbering streets as usual, a towering giant of a man came lumbering toward him from the other side. Looking up, the peculiar man thought the giant must have been at least 2 or 3 fathoms tall. "Who are you?" the peculiar man asked. "I am a telegraph pole," the towering giant replied, bending down slightly and speaking in a low voice. "Ah, a telegraph pole, is it? But why are you out walking at this hour?" the peculiar man inquired. The telegraph pole explained that during the day, the streets were too crowded for something as large as himself to walk freely, so he had made it a habit to take strolls at night. "But what about you, little man? Why do you walk around at this hour?" the telegraph pole asked. The peculiar man responded, "I despise people. I don't want to see anyone's face. That's why I walk at this hour." "That's interesting," said the telegraph pole. "Shall we be friends, then?" The peculiar man immediately agreed and said, "Telegraph pole, I hate all people, but I like you. Let's take a walk together from now on." And so the two set off side by side. After walking for a while, the peculiar man began to complain. "Telegraph pole, you are far too tall. It's troublesome to talk to you like this. Can't you find a way to lower yourself a little?" The telegraph pole tilted its head in thought for a moment before saying, "Well, there's nothing else for it. Let's go to a pond or a river. If I walk in the water, our heights will match perfectly." "That sounds interesting," the peculiar man said, pondering for a moment. But then he frowned and said, "No, that won't do. The riverside is full of bushes and uneven paths. It's fine for someone like you who doesn't feel anything, but it would be troublesome for me." The telegraph pole bent over even more, as if deep in thought, and then said, "I've got a good idea. Since you're small, why don't you walk on the rooftops? That way, I can move along next to you under the eaves." The peculiar man nodded in silence and then said, "That sounds fun. Lift me up onto the roof." The telegraph pole easily lifted the peculiar man and placed him lightly onto a tiled rooftop. The peculiar man rejoiced, marveling at the wonderful view as he walked along the rooftops, chatting with his new friend. Just then, the moon emerged from behind the clouds, and they could clearly see each other's faces. The peculiar man suddenly let out a loud cry. "Ah, your face is completely blue. And those wounds, what happened to you?" The telegraph pole calmly replied, "Sometimes terrible electricity passes through me, turning my face blue. These wounds, they are marks left by being pierced with wires." Hearing this, the peculiar man panicked and tried to flee. "Ah, dangerous, dangerous. I can't touch you." But he was already high up on the rooftop and couldn't climb down. "Hey, little man," said the telegraph pole. "It'll be dawn soon." "What? Dawn?" The peculiar man turned to look at the eastern sky. It was already turning pale with the first light of morning. "This is bad," he exclaimed. He instinctively tried to leap onto the telegraph pole, but then recoiled again in fear. Ah, dangerous, dangerous, he cried, stepping back hesitantly. The telegraph pole clapped its hands and burst into laughter, mouth wide open. Little man, I can't stay here any longer. Once morning comes and people start passing by, I have to return to my original place and stand still. Are you planning to stay alone up there on the roof? The peculiar man was in distress. In his panic, he started crying. Before long, people began to appear on the streets. The telegraph pole had missed its chance to return in time and had no choice but to stand awkwardly in a strange place, pretending as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, the peculiar man continued to beg. Hey, telegraph pole, please get me down. He clasped his hands together in desperate prayer, but the telegraph pole no longer spoke or moved. It simply stood there in silence. People passing by found the sight amusing. How strange. There's a telegraph pole standing right in the middle of the town. And look, there's a man up on the roof, crying and praying. Everyone burst into laughter. Soon, a policeman arrived. The peculiar man was mistaken for a thief and taken to the police station. But after it became clear that he was no criminal, he was released. After that, the peculiar man never went out at night again. He remained shut in his room, both day and night. And as for the telegraph pole, rumors spread throughout the town, and it too gave up its nighttime strolls.